Hi, I'm Eric Hagan, also known as Eric the Sculptor. Today I'm going to talk about some of the choices I make when I'm working on a pose and a new sculpture. This one is called Latoya Quick Nap, and it was a simpler pose. When we worked on the pose with the model, it was a simple cushion, and we had tried various things, much more complicated poses, but this turns out to the simplest one, had the most power. And it just happened that she put her arm down and laid on her elbow in a special way with her hand on her shoulder, and everything just clicked and it looked right, and so we knew that that was going to be the pose we were going to do. As I started to make the sculpture, I realized that it was missing an element of movement and fluidity. I like this pose because of the kind of up and down and kind of flowing nature of the pose, but it was missing something. So when I added this blanket, which is actually, she had a very thin blanket on the cushion, but this blanket's a very heavy looking sculptural element. And by adding that, it really added a lot of movement to the pose. I put in some folds and wrinkles to show action, and also corresponds to the slope of the back, reinforcing with the angle over here. Right here I've added a couple of little wrinkles indicating her foot has moved and pushed the blanket a little bit, which creates a little bit of motion in the pose. I want the idea of rest, obviously, because that's what the pose is about, but there has to be some movement in a sculpture or it feels too quiet. So by adding the little wrinkles here, a little bit of a tuck there, and this fold back here, the blanket shows some movements that's just happened. Also, an important element of any kind of a pose like this is when you break the frame. So the obvious box is right here. This foot extends past. In the real pose that she was doing, it was extending past quite a bit more. I made it less and moved the body over a little bit, just for reasons that have to do with when we go to make it into a bronze. I don't want something sticking past too far, but having to extend past the edge is a very important element to this pose. This is a lot of work I need to do still. I haven't done any detail. I haven't worked on the face too much yet, and the hands still need a lot of work. But I'm at the stage now where I'm figuring out how to do things like the hair. So the hair, she has a very large amount of hair with dreadlocks, and so the flow in the real life was a little bit too piled up. So I chose to make this artistic decision of actually having the hair flowing more. I wanted this really sharp edge coming down here, this almost a vertical edge right here, and then this is flowing almost like water. That adds to the movement of the pose. From the backside especially, you can see this really great flow that it's got going. The gravity is an important element of this, showing that the pushing down here and here is really, there's a dip right here also from gravity. That's an important part of showing the rest, being at rest. The texture on the blanket was also a big element. Until I did that, it looked a little bit too flat. The body didn't pop out. As soon as I put the texture on, the body was easy to distinguish from the blanket, and it really created a lot more interest in the pose. This eventually will be a bronze sculpture, probably. As part of the process of making a bronze, you have to make a silicone or polyurethane mold and pull it off. So one of the considerations is always looking for edges that will catch when you're pulling the rubber mold off to make your wax that's going to be used for the lost wax process of making bronze. So I have to be careful not to have too many deep cut ins. These are probably all okay, but maybe I have to fill a little bit right over there. So that's a little bit of the process. In the next video I'll talk a little bit more about the tools I use, and if you want to see some of my work, go to www.ericthesculptor.com.